ตอนที่ 4.1 หลักเกณฑ์เบื้องต้นในการเสนอคดีต่อศาล Section 4.1 Basic Principles in Filing a Case with the Court. The foundation of this system is established by Section 55 of the Civil and Commercial Code. เมื่อมีข้อโต้แย้งเกิดขึ้นเกี่ยวกับสิทธิหรือหน้าที่ของบุคคลใดตามกฎหมายแพ่งหรือบุคคลใดจะต้องใช้สิทธิทางศาลบุคคลนั้นชอบที่จะเสนอคดีของตนต่อศาลส่วนแพ่งที่มีเขตอำนาจได้ตามบทบัญญัติแห่งกฎหมายแพ่งและประมวลกฎหมายนี้ This defines two distinct avenues for court access. First, dispute cases, or kadi mi korpipat, reserved for direct conflicts between opposing parties. Second, non-dispute cases, or kadi mai mi korpipat, where a single party seeks court recognition of a right without an opponent. Section 55 operates as a rigid jurisdictional filter. If a situation does not fall precisely into one of these two categories, the court lacks the authority to hear the case. Within a dispute case, the filing is formally known as a plaint, and the parties are designated strictly as the plaintiff and the defendant. To appear in either of those capacities, an entity must possess the legal status of a person. This requirement is limited to living natural persons or registered juristic persons. Supreme Court Ruling 1583 to 1587/2521 addresses this directly. Gong Moradop Heng Putai Midai Yunai Jampuk Nitibukon Tam Matra Jepsipsong Heng Bo Paw Paw จึงมิได้มีสภาพเป็นนิติบุคคลตามกฎหมายและไม่อาจเป็นจำเลยได้ฉะนั้นโจทก์ไม่ได้มีอำนาจฟ้องกองมรดก The ruling clarifies that a deceased person's estate is merely a collection of assets. Because it is not a recognized juristic person, an estate cannot be sued directly as a defendant. To recover a debt from those assets, a plaintiff must instead file against the executor or the heirs, entities the law recognizes as persons with the capacity to be sued. We see this principle reinforced in Supreme Court Ruling 8753/2556. กลุ่มออมทรัพย์เพื่อการผลิตบ้านหัวเขา small คล้าที่เป็นโจทก์นั้นมิใช่บุคคลธรรมดาหรือนิติบุคคลโจทก์จึงไม่มีอำนาจฟ้อง Here, a group savings club attempted to sue a defaulting member. However, because the club had not registered as a juristic person, it possessed no legal identity. It was invisible to the court. Organizational structure and asset volume are secondary to legal status. Without a state-recognized identity, an entity lacks the standing to enter the litigation process. While personhood provides baseline eligibility, specific statutes can explicitly remove a person's capacity to initiate a lawsuit. This is most evident in Section 1562 of the Civil and Commercial Code regarding kadi utalam. ผู้ใดจะฟ้องบุพการีของตนเป็นคดีแพ่งหรือคดีอาญามิได้ The law imposes an absolute ban on descendants filing civil or criminal suits against their parents or grandparents. If a legal claim is necessary, the state requires a public prosecutor to initiate the case instead. Supreme Court Ruling 8651/2558 demonstrates how rigidly the court applies this restriction. The court held that even if a descendant is acting in a professional capacity, such as an estate executor, the prohibition remains. They still lack the legal standing to sue their own ascendant. Statutory law also intervenes during insolvency. Section 22 of the Bankruptcy Act states, เมื่อศาลสั่งพิทักษ์ทรัพย์ของลูกหนี้แล้วเจ้าพนักงานพิทักษ์ทรัพย์แต่ผู้เดียวมีอำนาจดังต่อไปนี้ 3. ประนีประนอมยอมความหรือฟ้องร้องหรือต่อสู้คดีใดๆเกี่ยวกับทรัพย์สินของลูกหนี้ Upon a bankruptcy order, the law transfers all legal standing regarding assets to the official receiver. The bankrupt individual is stripped of their right to engage in litigation concerning those assets. Civil standing is not an inherent right, but a conditional status defined and restricted by the strict boundaries of the Civil Procedure Code. Beyond personhood and statutory eligibility, a dispute case requires that the plaintiff be the specific individual whose legal rights are being directly contested. Supreme Court Ruling 523/2562, involving a dispute over state railway land, provides a clear illustration of this requirement. In this case, a tenant rented land from the state railway, but found trespassers already occupying the property. The tenant attempted to sue the trespassers for eviction. The case failed because the lease agreement did not explicitly delegate the power of eviction to the tenant. The court ruled that since the right to evict remained with the landowner, The tenant had no direct legal dispute with the trespasser, and consequently, no standing to file the suit. Suffering a financial burden or an inconvenience does not constitute a dispute under Section 55. A party must hold the explicit legal title to the specific right being infringed. The second category under Section 55 involves petitions with no opposing party. These are filed by a petitioner under the framework of Section 188(1). Common examples include requests to appoint an estate administrator or filing for legal ownership through adverse possession. A court's authority to grant these requests is not discretionary. Every petition must be based on a specific pre-existing statutory provision that authorizes the court to issue that particular order. This exact requirement is demonstrated in Supreme Court Ruling 157/2524. The petitioner was recognized as male at birth, but following sex reassignment surgery, identified as female. They petitioned the court to legally change their prefix on official identification from Mr. to Miss. The court's ruling was based strictly on the limits of its jurisdiction. Thai civil law currently provides no statutory authority for a court to alter a gender title based on physical changes. Without an explicit law authorizing the petition, the court lacked the jurisdiction to grant the request, and the case was dismissed.